Okay, Rabbi say, Simon Yid Gimel is one of the ways that people don't want to get it in Torah, use it. Unfortunately, sometimes Dayanim don't know the Halacha. You should, tell people the wrong thing. Okay, so let's learn. Rabbi says like this: Echad mebaladinim. Let me just explain what the Rabbi is saying. Normally, a city has a bezdin. Normally, you got to go to the bezdin of the city. Can't say I want to go to a different bezdin. Especially if both did the business over here, you got to go to the bezdin of the city. They have a right. The Gemara says, each one should choose a dayan, someone represent them, and that's called zeh. It's called zavlua, if you heard that expression. Even as a bezin in the city. So the Chazal said, you know what? We'll allow you to choose a dayan. The other one choose a dayan. In the two dayunim, should choose a third. That's what the Chazal said. Now, originally, when the Chazal said this, they meant these people are going to be kosher people. That means you choose someone, and if you're wrong, he's going to say you're wrong. But he'll try to fight your case and try to find a way, to express. But if he sees you're wrong, you're wrong.
Even trying is, why is that kosher?
Yeah, but he's just saying maybe this, maybe that. That does work.
It's not impartial. He's not
No, but he has to be honest. If you have Elchonon, it does work. Unfortunately,
it's not always black and white. So
right. So someone could explain this way.
with the equal approach.
Yeah, but the middleman is the one who's equal. So you hear both tzedadim. But, so that really, it used to work. So now, before we go further, there's another important thing the Pesach Tshuva brings down. You can't tell him your case. A dayan is not allowed to listen to the case before the other person is there. So the Rishonim will say, the Pesach Tshuva brings down, if you choose a dayan, you can't tell him the case.
for all three.
But beforehand.
For all three.
No.
Anyone. If he's going to be one of the Dayanim, he can. So if he can't, that is tossed out.
No.
People don't listen. They go to a zavlua. That's why almost unanimously, all the Gedolim hold. They just saw a new interest that someone showed. They went to all the Gedolim. But I saw the David Sineru for the Moshe and Shom Zama. They all held the last generation. It doesn't work. And if a person doesn't want to go to a zavlua, you cannot force him. He wants to go to a non-parsha business. Today he was telling someone that, to just say you want to go to a bezdin. Any bezdin the person wants. A local bezdin, you'll go to New York, because the people travel to New York. But as avlua is corrupt. Someone quoted me.
But back in that day, they had to go? If you said, hey, I want to do zavlua,
yes, you have a right. You have a right to demand that. Someone quoted me from Rabbi Sheikhet from Toronto. He said that he sat on the Torah and showed how corrupt they are. That the Zavlua, they chose one guy to be the middle one. And he finished it in Torah quickly. They don't want to choose him anymore. You know why? He finishes in Torah too fast. We don't make money on it. Because our Zavlua makes money. You understand? As long as you take me and as long as I'm in the case, and we make money. The middle guy was an Elcha guy. He was no Chachmas. He finished the case quickly. So the next time there was another case in Toronto, one guy said, I don't want him to go. What's wrong with the guy? Well, he paskins very fast. I'm not going to make money on the case. He said it with Yiddish Zukma with Bakzeiner. You know what that means? Without embarrassment. How you say in English? Without shame. Just like... So it really is corrupt. That's why if a person doesn't want to go to a zavlua, he's not considered that he's not tzayis dina.
So why don't the Dayanim change the rules of how the prayer is possible?
Yeah.
Instead of doing by the hour, why don't they just do it by
We don't have a bezdin kavua. In the cities, let's say, I had a guy who was here from New Square. He gets a salary, he told me.
I'm saying, well, even so the ones where you don't have a bezdin kavua, why don't you just say, okay, it's a set fee for this type of case?
It's a private business. You want to open a competition and make a new din Torah, it's a business. That's all what it is. People don't realize this. We don't have a Bezdin Kavu in the city. RCC and Rabbi Teichman, as including myself, is a business. You know, because certain cases, I tell you now, my wife is not well, I'm not interested in anything now, it's too stressful. But, you know, it's like, you know, if our Bezdin Kavu should be here, he has to listen to every case. Today, someone told me if it's less than $20,000, don't even go, because by the time you finish, it's going to cost you $10,000, $15,000. It's ridiculous. It really is. But this is the Chazal. I mean, the famous story with the Get Me'usha from Brazil was based on this. They wanted a Zavlo, and he didn't want a Zavlo. And that's not called Mesar Ladin. That's not the. I have this all the time. The one party wants a Zavlo, the other party doesn't want a Zavlo. You can't force a person a Zavlo nowadays. That means if he has a right, you want to go, I'll go to the Torah, you go to any Bezdin you want to. I'm not interested that you should choose one answer. It is, they are very corrupt.
He can say, not any Bezdin, he can say a Bezdin that's impartial.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
keep it after everything.
Yeah, but this happens a lot. Because there are...
How does that fit into a divorce? You have a Zavlo.
Well, that's why they held that they could, I don't know who it was, but held they could force a get. The famous story, I remember was that many years ago, about 10 years ago already. Before they beat someone up, they give a get. And the claim was, they didn't want to come to Bezdin. That's also, you learn Hilchas Get and there is no such a thing. Can't force. Right. All the teretz, what they said to me then, I tried to figure out, all the shvach masses. If a person doesn't want to come to doesn't want to go to a Zavlo, can't force them to get. And they said on him, who knows what, all this who knows what doesn't make it, can't still force a get. If a guy has a girlfriend or boyfriend, you also can't force a get. Many people have this idea. Caught him in, I have a month set in the Torah, an Israeli ex-Shin Bet. You know, he showed us that this guy has a girlfriend. He showed us. From guy, she wants a get, we should beat him up. I mean, the family came with the uncle from New York, it was a Rav. He says, it's a shaysheg, it's all. Can't force a get. I mean, you learn the Shulchan Aruch. If you learn the Shulchan Aruch, if a guy he became a mummer, he also cannot force a get. You know, people are quick. But anyways, coming back, I want to focus on the...
Why did it work 100 years ago?
What worked?
Zavlo.
They were Elch. They were 100 years ago. I think 50 years ago were because I remember there was a thing Torah over here in LA. I myself was one of the Tzadodim. The other Tzad was an Elch guy. I was sitting at it in Torah. I say this always. This was the last time I ever did this Zavlo. I had a guy who didn't pay rent. I told you this story. Didn't pay rent. Happened to be a Klei Kodesh. Didn't want to pay. Why didn't want to pay rent? One of the windows was cracked. So for 6 months he didn't pay rent. So I said, first she was better and says, okay, before we decide how much that room is worth, so you have 3 bedrooms, so you're living for 2 bedrooms. Pay up now, 6 months, 2 bedrooms. What do you mean you don't pay? What do you mean you don't pay? The other guy was just rambling like get some zach. I mean, he was just he was caught off guard. You know, I mean, it was shtickle Talmud Chacham. You know, it was just terrible. Just terrible. I was the middleman. So far, I was the middleman. And the guy was trying to convince me. That's the last I allowed myself to be involved in such a thing.
Zavlo became 2 lawyers against each other. That's what it became.
Yeah, but that's what it became. So the Psak Desna really depends on the middle guy. That I always tell this to people, you want to go to Zavlua, the Bezdin is going to be dependent on, it's not a good Zach. It's not a good Zach.
So you're saying as a general rule by Zavla that the Dayanim who's chosen by each litigant is absolutely going to rule in that person's favor?
If he's not Elch, I watch this, yes. If he's Elch, no. If he's Elch, I was sat in Torah with a guy, not only did the guy lose, he told me, it was years ago, that I think my client owns a lot more money. He explained it to us in it was a very complicated business transaction.
That's what Dayanim don't have to tell it to him.
Well, that was the big question. We spoke about this, and because he didn't make the calculation. It was a mistake of his. he showed us he was very good at math. He was a shtickle math genius, and he showed us the calculation. Really, he should have, and he was representing him. He happened to be a Lubavitcher. He was representing this guy, and he made the calculation, and he showed us that really he should ask more money.
And what do they have to do then? Do they have to reveal it?
Yeah, because it was a miscalculation. It's not something that.
It's not giving a time.
No, not giving. They just he made the cheshbon miscalculation. It was complicated cheshbon. Like,
So are you saying the Dayanim were more early in the past than they are?
no, corruptness. I want to explain to you something. Corruptness always existed, and many people think that only nowadays corruptness was, and the reason Melech b'mishpat Yamadu is you wanted a king to make sure to wipe out the corruptness amongst the judges, amongst the. Right. So they wanted to just, wipe the corruptness. Now that's really, there was always corruptness. The Gemara says in Mesmigdash times, and there's always corruptness.
All the kings of Yisrael or whatever were all.
Not all.
No, there's some. No. Most of the King Yisrael, from King Yehuda, not the most of the King Yisrael was were corrupt. Anyways, so Bekitza, so and Halacha L'maisa, this is the big fights they have, and who makes the big fights? The Dayanim. Okay, I'm involved. If you don't mind, turn this off. I want to tell you a frightening story.
This one didn't get sorted,
Okay. Okay, zog dem Chaber. Echem baladinen, shome ish ploini yidoineli, voma baladinen ploini yidoineli, ili shnei adiyonim shebar ze echad, bar lem dain shlishi. They choose a third one. Mitzurich shedain shishi berutz na baladinim. That's very important. You don't need the baladinim to agree. If the Erlich, that means Ruvain chose Yosef to be his dayan, Shimon chose Binyamin. The two Dayanim choose a third one, not even though the Baladim don't want. The Gemara says clearly, the two judges could choose a third one, even though he doesn't like it on one of the parties. The judgment will come out truth. The Sumach, Mamish, one of them choose a Guan Oilam. And Yuchel Luchkev es Baldinoi Shehidne Tzezeling Boire Mishir. So he could choose who he wants. Okay? The Ramu says, this is not clear who this is. You have also printed, right, the Ramu? This is, some hold it's not the Rabu, some it is the Ramu just explaining the solution of Gemara. Shematoch Zeh, Boire lo echad, Zeh boire lo echad, the Baladine Tzaisen, they listen. They do listen. They listen to the psak when each one, originally, what the hell will be better. You choose one, I choose one, and if I lost, I say no reason I lost is because, I really thought I lost. It doesn't help nowadays. That the one who loses is convinced that the Bezdin is corrupt of corrupt. Imagine, I'll tell you another interesting story. I got a phone call with someone today from New York. There was a big din Torah in New York, and he tells me who the Bezdin was, put out a sirv against someone. The guy is a shtickle Talmud Chacham. Do you know why they put out the sirv? The Safra, the Daina, you know what the Safra Daina is, the one who's the Shliach Bezdin, secretary, he pushed the Dayanim. I says, who's the Dayanim? He tells me Dayanim. One is my age, a classmate of mine is a Dayan. I said, I know him personally. You can't dray him a cup. He's not up saying you're a 20-year-old, 30-year-old. And the other one I met once, the big Talmud Chacham. What are you talking about? The rule of losing it in Torah is, do you know why I lost it in Torah? They're corrupt. We couldn't say they're corrupt, because everyone knows they're Talmid Chachamim. The Safra Daina had influence on them. He pushed his childish, but people believe these childish things. You know what I mean? I always say this to people before you go to Torah. I always tell this to them: if you're going to win the Torah, you're going to say that you're not tzaddikim, kedoshim, chasidim, tahirim. If you lose the Torah, all of a sudden they're Shiurim and they're who knows what. The reason why I tell them ahead of time: don't think you're going to win. You might lose the whole Torah. maybe you should compromise. Who says? Okay, anyways, that's what the Rambam says. The solution of Gemara. Gamad Yunu Kalechet Shemahapel says Oishe Boire Oishe Komash Evshe Metzadadin Vagimu Shmei Tanish Neim Poisik Emes. He hears both arguments and he passes that way. Im Eine Yichoyin Lahashes Aliver Lehem Shlishi. What happened? This happens at both sides a lot. Now, there's another case in town where the makers of laws. It's very clear to me that the one has mamish. They has no claim to the Torah. I mean, I spoke to him and he doesn't want to pay. He owes a guy money and he doesn't have money, so he doesn't say he doesn't have money. I don't want to pay. So he chooses avlua, and he's so far passing everyone you could choose. I parcel. So he chooses one that was toignish. So what do you do such a situation? You understand? I'm a dying. I was appointed. You're dying. I choose one. You say he's not good. You choose one. He's not good. Then the city chooses a third one. I mean, we don't have a city here, but the Bezdin of the city, the Shivzayati would choose a third one, and that's who's going to sit in the Bezdin.
That doesn't happen here, though.
Now we don't have a city. We are Ish Kalayusha Be'enav Yasa.
Should we?
What do you say?
Should we have a city?
Avada, we should. We should have a seder. We should put people in chayrim. I mean,
It's not so hard to make sure to, I don't think there's more than 7 big kehilas. Everyone picks one, everyone will be happy.
they should have a voting. They should,
No.
yeah, it could be
It's
done.
about raising the money.
Okay.
It's you need someone to raise the money.
It's not that
Raise
much
the
money.
money for what?
Pay the Dayanim.
Generally, they don't need money because they make the money off their Shiurim.
No. We're saying to make a real bezin with the Dayanim.
No, make a bezdin that doesn't have to count for anyone. It doesn't have to just wanted in Torah. He gets paid no matter what. So he sits down at the Torah. Why is Mechaynaru a great bezdin? Do you know why? That the Yonim have nothing to do. They get paid no matter what. They're part of the koil there. So they sit in the Torah. For them, if you waste their time, they get agitated. Why are you wasting my time? How do they
support the koil?
They fundraise. They come here to fundraise too.
They have a fundraiser.
They fundraise. They go fundraising all over, and it's an incredible business. It is an incredible business.
Where is it?
In Muncie.
The biggest one.
All Butadinim in New York, I call them up. Even the other so-called Dayanim, don't want to say. They call them up, experienced, and they have, But that's a great thing. And they have certain, I was told Square Town has Monroe, is a big machlokes now, but they used to have. Yeah, well, yeah, it has a good bezdin, but all due respect, the one who I spoke to doesn't know halacha well, doesn't know cheshire mishpat. Yeah, he doesn't know cheshire mishpat. He called me up, and but we learned before, even though he doesn't know well enough, but you have a bezdin kavua, so you could go ask.
Chicago has a bezin kavua.
Oh, it doesn't have a bezdin kavua, no. They have a bezdin, but it's not bezdin kavua. It's the
CRC is probably, that's not called kavua.
no. They made it a bezdin on their own. They didn't vote for them. No one voted for them. It's like RCC here too.
Is an appointment to Bezdin Kavua permanent? When you say there's votes?
How do you make a bezdin? You vote. The Zion TV get Talmidei Chachamim. That's really how it was done always. They research, and they would get it Talmidei Chacham. So it's like the RCC here. It's not 3 people made a bezdin. They don't take every case. There's right now a case that went to them. He doesn't want to take it. I tell he doesn't have to take every case. That's we're lacking in the New York is also that way. It's a big Hafkedis in New York.
Because too big, it's harder.
Yeah, so people, if you guy put up a sitter against one guy, so they'll go to another shul and daven. Who cares?
That's right.
Even in Crown Heights, I was told people don't care. Yeah.
Because it's smaller, and there's a bezin kavua.
Okay. So imene khoyle hashis arts livrem shlishi man higem hier yitelem shlishim einem higem yelig if there is no man higem yelig hat veil if ne gimel we koif ya nit veludem fneyam. Also very hard nowadays. If let's say they can't, so then the tveya goes to 3 people and say sit in a bezdin. Now why do those 3 people have to sit? They have to sit. The Rosh says in the Tshuva you have to sit. You have to save a person his money. That's a Shuvas Aveda, You have every 3 people that you come in, then please sit in Torah, Api Halacha, you would have to sit. And
By getting paid, but also.
no,
Listen.
without
No.
getting paid.
You're saying the litigants demand?
that means it was Zeh Boyer Lecha. There is no Bezdin Kviyash B'City. And now we can't agree who should be. Then the Tveya goes to 3 people and tells you should be the Bezdin. For me, I have against any. You have to sit in the Bezdin.
So really, I can force I can force the RCC.
Well, who's going to force? Who's going to force?
The Shiurim show
Yeah. So they're going to say,
Who's chayav for that?
it's a good question.
Which 3 people are chayav? to do
Any 3 people.
that? Yeah, but I'm saying who's chayav?
You.
For me.
If I have it in Torah with this guy over here, and we tried this out, doesn't work, I come to the 3 of you, I want you to sit in the Torah. You have to sit in the Torah.
Regardless of our level.
Yeah, well, no, because we can't get, otherwise there'll be no law and order. People will steal, people won't pay.
But they don't apply this stuff.
Well, we don't apply this stuff because the people, it's don't think that we have law and order. People lose money and they don't want to go to the Torah. Someone told me that someone gypped them $80,000. He says, I'm going to go to the Torah, pay $20,000 till it's going to start, and till it's going to end. It's a line of aggravation. Guy, he did work for a guy, contractor. Any contractor? I was told contractors suffer from this all the time. All the time. Guy doesn't want to pay with excuses, you know this. Bottom line is, told him, you're so angry, the guy, take him in Torah. So I'm going to take him in Torah, it'll cost me $20,000, he made a cheshbon, and then maybe I'll win, maybe I'll not win, and if I do win, it's going to cost my gezint.
In a case like that, a contractor, can a Jewish contractor put a mechanic's lien?
Yeah, you can put a
It's not going
mechanics
to
lien.
court.
Yeah, you can put a mechanics lien.
What is the type of
Put a
So
lien.
you put a lien on the
Put a lien
person's
on it.
real estate, and if they ever go to if you don't collect it, if they don't pay you, eventually when they sell the property, you're going to get paid.
Mr. Cass told me that a plumber, put on a piece of property worth $4 million, a lien, a mechanical lien. And for $180, he didn't pay the last $100. He couldn't sell the building.
Of course.
because of
$100. But actually, selling a building, it was worth $4 million. I think he was selling for $8 million. Forgot what he told me. He couldn't sell it, and he was annoyed because the legal law is that you have to pay him interest, 10 years of interest. So 10 years of interest went out to a lot of money. It's very high interest, right? Something, it's like $1,000. Him $1,000 was a joke. Yeah, should pay the plumbing bill. But he came to me, asked me, isn't it ribbis? I'm just saying. But it's like amazing. For $180, that's what
Why would it be ribbis?
because that's what they do. They're demanding that the government says you have to, if you want, the law is that it's not $180, it's $180, 10% a year. What is it? Yeah? 10% a year. This is 10 years, it's $1,000. So I remember it was like an enormous amount of money. Yeah, I'm just saying is. So, but the bottom line is, it's a $40 million house, $8 million. I mean, the guy wanted to buy it.
So halachically, someone can put a mechanics lien?
He should get reshus from Bezdin, but he didn't go to court. He just put a lien. It's not a court; it's a lien. Yeah.
To give reshus from the basement?
Well, you don't have to go to court, right? You don't have to go to court. No.
It's like grabbing someone's steering wheel.
No, yeah. It's just put a lien, and the guy wants to dispute it. Come to the Torah. But not always does it work. Not always does it work. Not every deal, not every sale. Okay, so the Eibusher should help. That we, I tell this to people. That I always used to think before I was learning Madrushim that in Midbar was this calm, peaceful. No one argued. Shalom Bayis was great, and everything was geschmack. Yeah, but they didn't need a shoitrim. They needed police. The Medrash says shoiftim is shoitrim titeracho even by Midbar. You needed a police department. Come on, and Moshe Rabbeinu was around. Like imagine, like Chassidim have the times of the Tanya, the Chassidim of probably Kedosh Elya, no one insulted anyone. There was no din Torah. Imagine you just got the Torah, you're living in the desert, and there's no Shalom Bayis, and people are eating man, and kicked sich wie kleine Kinder. You know, you needed a Shoitrim, you needed a police department. A Shoter, right? How you say humans are humans. Okay. Zug de Mechaber weiter. V'chein, im a nitve maren. But this is what they do all the time. The nitve is maren. Liver dain she'enu hugim. Kele sheves, it's a dain, kele lishbois, it's a dain. He chooses dafka someone not. You know, he dafka chooses a corrupt guy. He says, he doesn't want, he chooses a gangster. And in Yiddish we call it an interveldnik, a mafioso. That means the Tzvei uses a Talmud Chochem. The Nitve says, I'm taking this, how do you say in English? A bully. That's what you say in English, a bully. Then you force him to go to the local bezdin and 3 people. Finished. This is a huge problem. See, we have pressure on a guy to go to the Torah to a degree because we put a sieve on him. But when he starts playing games, all of a sudden, I'm going to choose this guy, I'm going to choose this guy. It could schlep a long time. It does schlep. You know, it does schlep a long time. They could come, yesh omenim, they sichel never shlishi. You don't need to. The third. Yesh omenim, that's what some say. Not everyone agrees to it. Everyone said no, because it's not going to be a bezdin. Yesh omenim, the manitva oimish yivar shnayim, tvei gamke shnayim. He says, I'll choose 2. You choose 2. The hang yivar chamisha shizbe yudai chozman shedain beribim yoyse din lamitoy.
Even more.
Yeah, I'll choose 2. There's a famous case in London. Famous, I don't want to say the name of a family. He died, and the children were fighting over the Yerusha. A very, very famous, wealthy case. So they each choose 2 Dayanim. You know, this guy used to, this guy used to. And the guy told me, and each side used the biggest gangsters Dayanim. Side of the Dayanim. They bought in. See, when someone does this, he's not Erlich. Go to the local best and you have to trust the Rabbi Shem. It's Bashet, not Bashet. You know what I mean? Okay. Zog the Mechaber weiter. Kostvin, the Bezdin writes, Ploini bitter es Ploini, Ploini bitter es Ploini. They write it down. They could change their mind. If it was not written down, they could change their mind. Once it was written that he chose, it's called the Shtura Berurim. They wrote it down. This was one of the big things that to have it written down was expensive. That means if each one chooses a die and he wrote a document, you cannot say, I don't want him. You already chose and became obligated, or the Ramu says, now they have to make a kinyan. Sit down, make a kinyan, and then one of the corrupt things that the Dayanim do, you hear Rabbi say, they see the guy is losing. He doesn't show up to the Torah the next time. I watched such a case. I could not believe my eyes. He didn't show up.
It's representing him.
So what happened was this guy saw he was losing. So there was another yeshiva, and he didn't want to come. So nowadays, you know, in certain games you could play till how does it say? You know, you play this play. And so what they do now, they write in the Shtura Berira that they sign that the Bezdin could paskin 2 without the third one not showing up. Write it into it. So in case the guy's going to make shtick, you don't know, once you start it, you don't want to show up, Bezdin can give a psak.
But what was he trying to do by not showing up?
So there's no psak. You can't give a psak.
Just to delay, just for...
No psak. There's no psak. He sees that he's losing.
You won't show up ever again.
You want to ever show it again? And the corrupt Dayanim do this. When they get a case and they start realizing it's not a case they're going to win, they schlep and they play games and I could not come. And this is the game that they play. And the Bezdin puts out a sittiv. Just now recently the Bezdin put on a sittiv against the lady in New York. I can't put it, but we don't care who's your toin.
Okay.
We do know that your toin is corrupt. The Mechayri Ruah did not allow a certain toin to come into Bezdin for years. They put a knas on him. And started behaving after a while.
There was a Zabla on the East Coast in Massachusetts where basically they had, three Dayanim, one for each side, and they chose the whatever. And then the two of them, sided one way. And then they found that afterwards that the mutual Dayan that they both chose was actually related to the other Dayan, the one that he sided with. So the losing side claimed that, hey, this was, this whole thing was...
How was he related? Do you know how much he was related?
He was like his father-in-law or something like that. Like
Father-in-law?
It was like it was like a pretty close relation.
Yeah, that's possible.
That when they found after, they said, that would have...
That's possible. That's I don't know. Someone will...
Weird that no one knew that.
No one chap, but they're possible. Sometimes it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
We say Yiddish akasha v'amasa, but everything is the whole thing you throw out. You have to start all over again.
Throws it out. We on an appeals court.
I'm not talking the guy. If it's the Elch, the guy says the middle guy was Elch, was right. Get the other guy that we didn't realize he was related, and the psak we gave has to be we have to get it to restart all over again.
But it doesn't destroy itself.
You find there's a clear fraud, or you find there's something really wrong. There's a way to appeal this based on...
We don't really have. That's so they instituted the last few years in Rabbanut you do, but we don't have in America anything. There's nothing you can do.
What do? You just go to another basin?
Nothing you can do.
No, in this case,
This guy go to another best, but he's asking if otherwise people never, every loser, you have to remember this. No matter how much I say this, people don't believe me. Every time a guy loses a din Torah, he doesn't say I was wrong. He says the Bezdin was corrupt. They were bribed. They don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, but then he should have been smart enough to get a real Elcha guy.
It's very interesting. It seems to me, as a person who's in court every day, that we have a better system.
Sure, which way?
The secular system is much better. No one ever makes an accusation that, or very rarely will they ever make that accusation that the judge was corrupt and he was bribed and he's this.
But they do. They are bribed. I know a judge in New York. People used to bribe all the time. We Yiddish people know that.
I'm sure there are, but as a general thing, you show up in court and there's two sides. And
Yeah, but how do you know? But how could... let me tell you, I was growing up, and I was a 9-year-old boy. Never forget, there was the first guy was arrested. And, after the war. What did he do? He sold tickets for airlines which didn't exist. He was arrested by the federal... And it was a federal crime. No one understood what the guy thought, what he was going to get away with it. And so, Yiddish people, Holocaust survivors, what do? We got to bribe the judge. No, you can't bribe the judge. I remember the Rav telling me, the question is not that you can't, how much? That's the question.
aren't the lawyers in with the judges?
And they bribed the judge. Now, I look back, all the bribe helped that he gave the minimum, not the maximum. So what happened was, $3,500, they met in a restaurant, they each bought the same attaché, they had a nice talk about the sports, and each one took home the other's, no one saw them do anything. There was a matavach in between, and New York, this is they
At
have...
the end of the day, the Jewish Bezdin system doesn't have a real enforcing mechanism.
We today have nothing. No.
Courts have an advantage.
Rather, because they could put you
Jail,
to
that's it.
because jail. But when it was in the Europe, they put you to
But
chayrim.
besides that,
In Hungary, my father lived in the city. A guy didn't want to live. They put him chayrim. He couldn't buy bread. This guy in Manchester, one of the guys who was hugging the Iranian guy. So he came back. The Rav of Manchester put a chayrim against him, and he worked. No one sold them meat, and no one sold them, only sold them bread and milk. The children shouldn't go hungry. And he packed his bags and moved out. I mean, it worked. And in Europe, my father says it worked. The guy didn't want to go to the Torah, put him in chayrim. He couldn't get aliyah, you didn't let him sit in the shul. They pushed him out of the seat, you let him stand. It worked. And most people, but today what are you going to do? We put a guy in chayrim, he's going to move to another shul. The rabbi needs another shul, needs another mispal, So that's why it doesn't work. But in Europe, it was the Achdus, there was Kehillah. It did work. In Poland, it didn't work anymore because Poland, the cities became too big and it was too big. But the other places, it worked. So today, it's very big. There's no we can't, the only way you can enforce the Psak Bezdin is go to court. That's it.
One of the main things is that we don't allow what we call foreign shopping. You can't start shopping for a judge. As soon as it seems like someone's trying to shop, because there's mechanisms where you can, get a judge, off a case, that would become a massive issue. So me saying most of the cases, I never know who it's going to go to, or when, it can go anywhere. So it's a way, the judge doesn't know what's coming to him, and I don't know I'm going to that judge.
It's like a business kavua, the same system.
And that's so it works mamish that way. The Badats, you have no idea who's going to show up today. They don't tell anyone. The Badats has a rotation, and it's always different rotation, and no one knows who's going to show up, who's going to be the dying. That works in it's a soul. And the Branut also works that way in many places. They have no idea who's going to sit. That's not the problem, but corruption could be anywhere.
Does the reputation of the litigants make a difference? Like if you know that this guy is...
Yeah, about that. That's what he just said. If you choose someone, and then Bezdin forces you to go to the city Bezdin, no, Bezdin forces you to choose 3 people. If you choose someone who's corrupt...
Past sins. They're both Rishayim, the Mishnah says. They're both like.
No, but he's saying, but if he chooses a corrupt person to represent...
Continuously. No, I'm saying, if this guy continuously does something like that, does that...
You're talking about the litigant or the
Yeah.
judge? The litigant. So the litigant has a bad reputation, and the other litigant has a talked about.
Yeah, but this is wrong. He could have a terrible reputation, but it could be today's right.
In this case.
Right.
Dina Mumman is, if you want to know if he killed them, if you know that he killed 7 other people, but we're talking about Dina Mumman is, maybe this time is right. Maybe. Not even the same in Torah. Sometimes a guy catch a guy with a lie. Many people, I remember sitting in the Torah and the guy was screaming, you caught him by a lie. So what? So everything you said came out of your mouth was truth? So yes, doesn't mean that everything in the whole case is, try to embellish it, try to make it more. I always tell people, when a person says he doesn't lie, you just said a nice lie. We all have our lies, a white lie, a green lie, with a het lie, there's a lie. Okay, zog dem chavavata. I said this. Once they start the argument, they can't change who should be the dying. Once they started, each one started an argument, they cannot change it. Once they started saying, this was a story once in Lakewood, there's a whole machlekes that he did start to say, in the Bezdin, he came to Bezdin, and in the Bezdin Lakewood, all of a sudden, one guy backed out, he didn't want. The big machlekes, if he started, he didn't say anything, but he saw the attitude, he didn't want to be the Dayanim.
Who the dying?
The litigant. Oh. So, because once you start saying, you can't change your mind. There was no one remembered there was a Kenyan. There were a lot of, it's like, I don't know, it looks like it was not professionally done. Because
Your Kenyan is done today? Or?
Yeah, do it a Kenyan. You write to make it. The first thing you do, you want to come to Bezdin, we write your Shtura Berida. And you sign it. And the next thing we make, everyone should make a Kenyan. That'll be wasting my time. When 2 people come to me, unless they're Makabal Kenyan, I'm wasting my time. The one is going to lose, is not going to listen.
Correct.
That's okay. Once you cannot change your mind, you cannot ask for Mother Yurim. Sure. Now, the Sim and Gimel is a very important thing, which I like what the court system does, but the Shulchan says you shouldn't do Likat Chila. Likat Chila is you cannot force to tell the guy, write down your argument. That means Beis Din should hear the argument straight out of the person's mouth. And the reason is because you can hear, when a guy, the way he's arguing, it's truth and not truth. But I always tell people, write down exactly what you're arguing, because it gets lost in all the emotions. If you don't come with a lawyer, the whole Din Torah gets lost in emotions. And he said and he didn't say, he could have said, and did me a favor. But Likat Chila, you understand, you can't come into Beis Din. How's it called? A brief. We have to hear it from you. What are you saying? Let's hear what you're saying. But it's very true. Sometimes you hear from the guy talking, and see, it's a whole different picture. What was really going on.
Could you submit, declarations of other witnesses?
No, they have to come. They have to come.
So there's a concept of the hearsay rule in Beis Din?
Yeah, they have to come.
You can't get a deposition.
No, they have to come to Beis Din.
Even if they're far away?
The Beis Din over there should be Mekabel Eidis, and then Beis Din over there could send us the Eidis to another Beis Din.
What about the use of video?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. In courts, don't they use a CTV? What is it called?
Not in my courts.
Not
Not
here?
in criminal court.
Not in criminal courts? I thought for the small Bulgari things they have, no?
For a trial, they have to be.
Not a trial. That's all when the first arrest and come.
Yeah, I mean, if they're arraigning the defendant.
Arraigning defendant.
Yeah, they do that, yeah.
Because I tell you why I don't think it works. Because the guy doesn't see the judge and he sees through the screen and it looks like a joke, the whole thing, you know what I mean? He sees a screen, you see a screen.
But now with Skype, I mean.
It's a screen.
Like that. No, you can see each other.
Yeah, you see each other, but it's in a small bag. It doesn't have this awe of a judge sitting there. And, this they took from Medin, that the Beis Din should have a dressed properly. They should have a derech eretz. It's Skype. It looks like a joke. But anyways, I don't know. I don't know.
Just out of interest, what is the rule on hearsay? Because is it anything that anybody else could potentially say, or is it just?
Hey, he has to come. I was there. I saw the accident. I was there. I saw you give him a loan. I was there when you punched him in the nose.
But does it depend on, this is complex, in our rules it depends on sometimes the purpose of it. Sometimes you're saying what someone else said, but you're not introducing it for the purpose of that it's true, you're introducing that it was said.
That's worthless, boss. That's worthless. What is that worth on anything? We need an ed. We need an ed to say, I saw the loan. I saw his car crash into your car. Someone else told me it's worthless. You have to have in a half a dover, I saw him skid down the road. I didn't see the accident, it's worthless. He has to say, I saw Reuven's car hit Shimon's car.
We may have 20 different witnesses who say different things that lead up to that.
It's worthless. That's called chutzi dover. It's a famous gemara. Dover v'le chutzi dover. You can't say, I saw the car skidding down the road.
That's not even a chatzidor.
And another
Not even
witness
a
said,
chutzi
I heard
dover.
bang, and
Another witness said, I heard bang. And at the same time as that was skidding, I didn't see the end of the skid. It's worthless. Elchonon, that's not an edus.
So they're much more succinct trials then. You don't have, I have trials I call 50 witnesses. In your trials you might call 3.
Yeah, it's very few times nowadays we have witnesses. Most people don't have witnesses. There was a car accident. Most people, it's not a car. Most people, there was a loan. The question, the contract. It's most of it don't have witnesses. Very few witnesses in the case. People don't know that. They bring who knows witness. I had a sitting in a case. The guy was a shtick about Barav. Brings a guy from Florida to be a witness.
What do you think?
I don't. You bought it. I said to him. I sent him out. He's a guy, but he's going to say the truth. Could say it could be Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Pusaladis. I mean, anyways, I have to make him feel good that he came, and he said it was worthless. brought a guy. I mean, this guy went to yeshiva. Like he brought a guy from Florida to testify for him. A lady could be a witness. We'll later learn when a lady could be a witness. But did someone tell me that they made a rule or something over here? It was quoted over here from the internet. You quoted the made a so a lady could be a witness. So then in Shulchan Aruch, someone mentioned a few weeks ago. So then in Shulchan Aruch, the Goyim made a tikkun, a place where no men are, only ladies, that a lady could be a witness. Anything.
There are specifically
For women, we learned in the Rambam, that's what you mentioned. About the women testifying and the other woman.
Yes, in a place where there's no men, the Goyim made a tikkun, in a shul, and you think women didn't fight in a derflech? Life was boring, so I had to fight. So Mele had to fought and they pulled his dress or her dress and they got into a fight and there's no men there to come. So the guy made a tikkun, woman come testify. In a place, same thing, in a place where there's no men. The witnesses, yeah. Okay. The truth is that, the truth of all this is that in the small, it is a very funny joke, but in the small derflech, I watched this in the Chassidish places where they don't have television, they're busy fighting with each other because they don't have sports. You don't hear such fighting going on like I grew up. The Chassidim, why they became tzaddikim today? They go home and they watch the fight between this soccer team and that soccer team, which is Yotzei. She let out all your frustration. Or this guy knocked this guy out on the, how's it called, the boxing, or...
The more modern cities like LA have more office.
No, they're not. There's to vent. People are walking around angry, and they have to vent the anger. What do you say? Ein Käufen es Seuda, this one Shittik Tus Miksav. Ein Dali Kabbat Tus Miksav, Yishmet and the same PM, Vitzava Letzoife Lekosrom, Leyichta Ele B'dash Neim. You have to write down, the Dayanim write down what it has said B'dash Neim. Shneim Nosses Chala Seifer. The higher, the one who writes it, today, you could tape it. Me, in Beis Baladim Roitz Litem Miksav, that is Shiz B'Yudam. They could have a permission to write everything. If they both agree, we submit. What did you say in English? It's called a brief. They both agree. We'll do it that way. If both agree that the Bezdin has a right, you'll write a brief. I'll write a brief. We don't have to come to Bezdin. If both agree to that, that's gewaldig. We only have the rules and regulations. One doesn't. Both want to agree that a father-in-law should be a dayan. The Kabbalah Kinyan, he could be a dayan. And both agree that we'll accept the edis from a goy, then it's good.
Otherwise, everything possible.
You have to write it in the Kabbalah Kinyan. This is both that say one that the business should work with the brief, then it's great. What's it written? You can't change your mind. But I learned it's called toyin v'choyze v'toyin. You cannot come later and change the story. If the story what you argue later is a change of the story, you can do nothing.
Stipulation. They can stipulate anything.
What do you mean stipulate?
When two parties agree to something.
Right. They could stipulate. Right. They could stipulate that one should be a dime. They could stipulate two should be a dime. They both agree that a father should be a dime. They both agree. So
something that's normally possible, they can make it.
They make a special kinyan. It's a mishnah that I ask him, your father or the father and son-in-law should sit in the din Torah.
To have women witnesses.
Yes, if I agree. So the Mechaber, Ibu Lifsel Dayin, Shibirer, Chaver Begaznisa Bepsil, Mishbuch Ein Shamaloi, Fila Ad Echal Meid Kedvurav. It's one of the most biggest tactic to say. Yena, gangster, it's the unfortunate part when people don't want to go to the din Torah. So the part of stalling is parceling the dayan. It's a game, but they want to stall and then Zeg de Mechaber water. One of this happens. You know what they do? He went and chose a dayan that knows edis for the other guy. This guy's a nice chess player. You understand what happened? Avadin Torah, what's your first name? David? Avadin Torah with David. And I know that the Binyamin over there knows Adis for him. So I'm going to choose Binyamin to be my Dayan.
You can no longer be.
You know me as Adis.
But wouldn't that possible to begin with? as
No,
Dayan?
no. It wasn't possible. He knows Adis from Russia to pass on him.
Because people make a mistake, they don't want to attach the words Ein Nasadayin and Ein
That's a whole different thing. Ede Nasadan is a whole different thing. We'll later learn this again. That's a whole different thing. But the bottom line is, he knows, and another thing they do, a guy chooses a Dayan who's a cousin to the other guy. No, you choose a Dayan, and I'm going to choose a Dayan who's a cousin to your Dayan, his brother. So you should be passing. That's part of the ploy they do. You follow what he said? He chose a Dayan. So I'm going to choose a Dayan that's his first cousin to this Dayan. Or to him. Usually to the other guy. So Mechdesa. So we say you can't do that. Once one guy chose one, you can't. So this was ploys through history people used to do. People used to do this.
So if he chooses his Tayin, this person...
Tayin, you could be a Tayin, a Dayan.
I'm sorry, a Dayan that's an Eid, who happens to be an Eid.
You can't choose him.
He will be possible.
You can't choose him as a Dayan. If you know his Eidis, Bezdin would say, you cannot choose him, choose another person. You chose him because you want...
So he can still give his testimony?
Yes, he can still give his testimony. Probably in the court system not. Once he has Negias, I know that they threw out a court from the RCC because one of the Dayanim son did business with one of the Baladinim.
Throughout the secular court.
Secular, throughout so one of, what does that have to do? And not now, did a business with him together 10 years ago, not even now. But if you didn't write this down and you were not mevater, the court threw it right out. They don't have, in the Shiurim, there's no such a thing. You know what I mean? So now all the RCC and all the Butadinim, they write right away. If you do any business, we asked every one of the parties, and there's a whole nisach, right? And that shouldn't become a problem. Okay. So see, I want to explain something. We are so lucky. We could write an email, and in a split second it will be in Eretz Yisrael. And I had a grandchild, and my daughter sent me a picture of the new grandchild. 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, it was a blank. We live in a new world. Those days, to write a question with an answer, you had to hire a sefer to write it. Who's going to pay for this? The Yonim here need, they don't know. The Yonim here want to ask another Bezdin. Who's going to pay for the shliach and who's going to pay for the writing? Understand? That's the question. In Hitzach Adiyun Lishal Duvar Bezdin Agud Kos Mishochan Bezdin Gumadin Lehem Daitom Hen Du Noisei Delek Lemeim Shifski Bezdin Agud Aleim Mesadin Ait the Bezdin Agud Shepaskin the Bini Shei Baladin Omden Ifnei the Yonim. So they have a right, and Elcha people will tell you, we're going to learn later, and we learned it before. A person who has a din Torah should always speak it over with others. Din Mammon is very delicate, So, but anyways, a guy wanted a din Torah. He made a condition that he's not allowed to ask Mechayin Laruah. I don't know what the guy had a problem with. They want they should ask the questions to Mechayin Laruah.
That's someone else.
No, they have a right to do whatever they want. You cannot tell us whom to ask, whom not to ask.
So you can't prevent the dying from doing research on their own?
Right. You can't say, I want you to be a dime, but you have to do it on your own. You can't go ask around. No such a thing. The dine has a right to ask whoever he wants, whenever he wants.
So if the dine feels that potentially someone else in this community has some aidis, can he go up to that other person who's never called to the Bezdin and say, I want to talk to you?
Yeah, he has to come to Bezdin, not to private. He has to come to Bezdin. Im lo yagid v'nusavayna. He could call him Bezdin. Calls people lo yagid v'nusavayna.
The Dayanim cause him to have to come.
What do you say?
The Dayanim cause him to have to come to base.
Yes, I know of a case where the Toyin, it was a terrible story, where the guy, I don't want to say in the but the guy, you know, they have the switch wives, what it's called, whatever, there's a name for this, swapping, whatever it's called, something like that. And I don't know the whole detail, but Shalom Bayis fell apart, and she claimed, she's Asal Abayla, she claimed, I'm Asal to you anyways. And she said, they said that the Bezdin said, who's you? You know, he had a toin before, and the toin didn't want to present him, and the toin was an Halacha toin, wasn't one of these crops. So Bezdin, middle of Shiva, the guy was sitting Shiva, told them you have to come in the middle of Shiva, als imlo yagid. So it was Bezdin initiated, he should come. Is it true? But he confided in you that his wife is also on him, but they did these crazy things. So Bezdin, you understand what that? Bechayru made this guy come in the middle of Shiva because the last Isha Bala, if he guy confided on someone, it's not hearsay. You understand? This is an Isser. This is a whole different thing. You know, Chab? A guy did a horrible thing. If it's true what he said, that they swapped wives, whatever it's called. And then the Shalom Bayis fell apart. And she said, came to Bezdin that she wants to get divorced. He didn't want, he wanted Shalom. And she said, I'm Osa Labala. Because I was Mezana. So Bekitza, and he said it's not true. She made up the story.
She's Naamanus?
She's Naamanus. No, Isham Tamei is not the Manis. So the Bezdin, nothing to do with them. The Bezdin knew that he once took a Elcha Toin, the Toin didn't want to represent him. And this Toin was sitting Shiva. So Bezdin told him you have to come to Bezdin tomorrow morning. So the guy said, I'm sitting Shiva. As the Lav lo Yagid, you get up from Shiva, you come to Bezdin. And the truth was, I asked afterwards, yes, he confided in this Toin that this is exactly what he did. You know, they had to know. It's Usalabal, not Usalabal, you know what to do. So there's a lo yagid doesn't have to be someone is tvei you. If the Bezdin knows that someone knows about something, they could demand the guy should come. Not in the secular case, it doesn't work that way, right? The judge
can't do it.
The judge can't do it.
And the judge cannot go.
Not the judge and not the jury.
It's a very interesting thing because in our system, you look at some of the Muslim countries, the judge is the prosecutor, so to speak. Means say the judge looks into the evidence and finds the evidence. And
Yeah, but the jury also is not allowed to ask questions. Not true?
Right. They can't do experiments. They can't test the theory.
You can. Are they allowed to ask questions that this doesn't make sense?
Overwhelmingly can't ask a question.
So who did they ask? They have to send a message to the judge.
They can, if they have a question while they're delivering, they can write down a question.
But right now, when the guy is saying testimony, it doesn't make sense.
Very rarely does it could happen, but very rarely does a judge let that.
But you have to ask the judge for it.
Yeah.
Someone told me such a story. He sat in a jury. He said, didn't make sense from Hoidi to Kish.
But the judge could ask questions.
Yeah, I don't know.
Judges will often ask the witness questions.
But when it came to deliberation, everyone acted when the jury that they understood. He says no one understood what was going on. It is terrible. Stel de Gevoel is sitting there. I went for jury duty once. So I looked around. Who's going to sit in the? It was a criminal case. I don't know what it was. Baruch Hashem, I was not paid. A bunch of hilarious. There was one judge who says, got up, and then he's also called the jury. But the rest are people don't think on their own. Jury people think what the television tells them. You know what I mean? They don't think on their own. Right? They don't think on their own. It's if you could put up a better show, if you could impress, make them cry, it's a show. Okay, let's see, just one more sif. In Bitter Lehem, says the Macham.
A practical question?
Yes.
But not some of our minds. Is there any halachic issues with shopping at the New Ralphs?
The New Ralphs is a halachic issue. You have to support the Jewish, from clients from stores.
I'm saying, what's the shot already?
They open a new Ralph's in my neighborhood, and with bakery and everything.
They sell today for meat?
They sell kosher, they
They
sell
sell
everything.
drink also, but
They
they
sell
sell
also.
kosher,
So
they're
they're
dealers.
buying,
It's not owned by Jews, Rabbi.
It's not owned by a Jew.
Non-kosher,
They're in a market,
that open the big
What's
kosher
the
stores.
question?
So the din is Shulchan Aruch, the Mechav, that if you, if,
Trying to take away business from other.
the din is Shulchan Aruch, that if you could buy from a Yid and from a Goy, you have to buy it. And then Chofetz Chaim says till a sixth.
So
Oh,
what?
you know.
I know, Shir, I know. So I explained this. So many people ask me, I think, well, some people ask, the parking is great there. So it's very hard to say, but that's, you have to have a mitzvah, a chiyuv to support the local.
The food there a lot cheaper than a 6.
No, it's not. It's usually more expensive.
For example, there's several issues that people were talking about, the combination. For example, Ralph's is, you can get everything there. So now you can go get your chicken and your cooked chicken and your bread, but you can also get your vegetables. Some of those stores you can only get.
That's true, but you have to judge. Is that, just like you have to pay to more than a sixth of the item. So the inconvenience, you have to know. You have to ask yourself, is that, 1/6, you have to know.
More for that.
Right. So I can't answer that question, but the person has a mitzvah to. So people ask me, how about it? So I said, you should buy insurance from the from people. I came over to me, what's his name, Schneerson. Why don't you get up and say, I said, I got up and told people, you have to buy insurance from the from people, you have to use the from, what's the name, well, any business they are, you have a mitzvah to support the from people. Nothing to, it's not.
Can Ralph's make an argument to say, hey, look, they're buying their meat from a from Jew, so even though, you're buying from Ralph's.
Yeah, but it doesn't make a
Ralph's is
difference.
buying it from City
The
Block.
supply, so what? But the bottom line, this.
Directly by buying there, you're supporting
No.
a yid that's.
He's anyways, but if he's not going to buy the meat, he's going to buy it by the other kosher places. It's just who's going to be the middleman. So that supplier is LA needs kach meat. Question is, it's going to be the next person selling going to be Ralph's, or it's going to be Lubrei Kosher, and who's the Pico, or whoever it's called over here. Pico, but that's the question. So you have a mitzvah to support the what's his name, the from person.
What about if the post?
The same thing you sell insurance, right? So a person could buy from a goy, could buy from a yid, is obligated to buy from a yid,
That's assuming they're equal.
even to the 6 more.
No, I'm saying quality.
Also,
Yeah, the same thing, same thing, same thing. But usually that's not the problem. People are lazy. People like
So a sixth more,
And to overpay a 6, then what do you think is so much you do? That's it.
But you're doing. Forget about it. You're doing a great mitzvah. You're doing a great mitzvah. The greatest tzedakah. I explained to you this way. Everyone is used to what is the greatest tzedakah. Matan b'seiser. I remember growing up, matan b'seiser. You know what matan b'seiser means. You give tzedakah, the recipient doesn't know who gets it, and the giver doesn't know who gets it. A great mitzvah. The Rambam, you all learn Rambam. The Rambam says the biggest tzedakah is to make sure the guy has panasa. I remember in Muncie when I got married. So there's the competition from ShopRite. What is it called in New York? Another huge shopping place, and opened a big Jewish shacks, and all Pathmark and all the ma pop stores had to close down. It was a churban. And then 25 years later, a bunch of Yidden Chassidish came and made a huge shopping thing, bigger than they, and Pathmark closed down. Because they ran a Yiddish Tam, and But the bottom line is that you're doing a mitzvah of tzedakah, help making sure the Jewish person has panasa. It's one of the greatest mitzvahs.
What if they're wealthier? Is there a...
Wealthy, do you know the wealthy? No one knows.
In theory, like
Still is, still a mitzvah.
the guy did a day, perhaps, or-
Yeah, but you don't know if he's wealthy.
So $10 a pound matzah, I can go to Ralph's and buy that.
For sure. I buy the sodas in the house. Well, let's say my wife is not well, and I'm doing the shopping now. And I don't like to go to Jewish stores because they push in the vibe, and I go 10:30, I didn't want to give it to Rav's there. I go to Martel because no one bothers me. No one sees me. I do it because I have no choice. Now I do the shopping, whatever's needed. But that's a big tzedek by me. I would pay a lot more than a sixth. Than just have to do it. I have to do it. But I'm saying, the bottom line is, you the biggest
10
mitzvah.
o'clock at night, if you're shopping, then there's no problem.
I you know what I did? I figured out when Lebrei Kosh is the quietest time, and I go then shopping. So if someone told me when it's the quiet time, and so the last few weeks that's what I've been doing. But the bottom line is, you're doing a mitzvah by helping a Jewish person.
Does it matter if Ralph's theoretically have Jewish employees?
No, they just hire Jewish employees. No.
I'm saying, let's just say they have 20 employees working at this deli, and they're going to all lose their
He'd
jobs.
say his wife, he wants him to know
No,
about.
I don't go to the Ralphs. I would never go to Ralph's. It's a schlep to go there. Anyway. But I'm just saying theoretically.
No.
Because they're opening soon on this side of town also.
Probably.
Pico, yeah.
Probably. These are Ralphs here too, no?
Pico Nervo, that's the next stop.
That one, the big, right in the corner there, yeah.
So maybe the Rabbanim should put together such a thing.
I didn't want to put, you want to just turn this off?
The RCC is